Good evening and welcome to Niagara News. I'm Alex York. Welcome to our coverage of the 2016 U.S. presidential election. So far it's been a very tight race. We've seen quite the situation in Florida develop. We are still waiting for some votes to be counted. A lot of states are still too close to call. I'm here with Susan Pedler, professor of journalism at Niagara College, and Kathleen Driscoll, also of Niagara News. So, how close do you guys think this race is?
I think we're seeing some surprises already. If we followed the polls leading up to this, even as up till midnight last night, everything was Hillary's got the momentum, Hillary Clinton's got the momentum, but actually the races are tighter than those polls indicated.
It's interesting because I've seen a lot of social media attention go towards Donald Trump, and it's really interesting to see that demographic kind of come out and vote. What about you, Kathleen?
It's really shocking to me. This is something that even like a week ago, people were saying Hillary's got this in the bag. And the fact that, considering Hillary's credentials in comparison to Donald Trump's, you would think that this would be an easy election for her. But this last week, particularly the last day, we're seeing this is one of the tightest presidential elections I've seen, I think, since 2000. Since the last two with Obama that he won, President Obama won those, even the last one, pretty much by a landslide. So this has been really one of the closest we've seen in a while.
And it's nice to watch it from a Canadian perspective because the nerves they must be feeling in that country right now with things so tight. It's polarized, from this campaign. The nerves must be incredible there tonight. I feel nervous, and I'm not American, and I feel nervous. So,
actually, on that subject, what do you guys think of the implications for Canada that this election will bring?
I think Canada hasn't really made a blip, obviously, in the whole campaign. I don't know if it's ever made a blip with Donald Trump. I'm not even sure if Canada's ever really made a big blip with Hillary Clinton, to be honest. But we have big issues that we need to discuss. Kathleen, you and I were talking earlier about pipeline issues, softwood lumber, trade for sure. So the answer from my perspective is we kind of don't know. Right, but we've got two such very different candidates here, and obviously there's an implication for Canada. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, I think especially when it pertains to pipelines, it's something that we've seen. The Obama administration has kind of taken a step back from any previous commitments they have made with Canada in regards to pipelines. So it's going to be interesting to see, since Hillary has come out as pro-fracking and is very much interested in potential developments, it'll be interesting to see the ways in which, if Hillary wins, what her path will be, even though it is the same party. And with Trump, well, to be honest, it's not. I honestly don't. Again, I completely agree with you. I don't think Canada has come up pretty much once or twice.
Although we have oil, and he wants to get back to fossil fuels and get back fast to really traditional oil, coal, those kinds of things, and we have those here.
That could potentially affect our dollar. We do have an oil economy, so we could see some improvements into the Trump presidency. Excuse me. So what do you guys think of the potential for the first female president?
This is interesting because if you think of other G20 countries, this is something that pretty much all of the U.S.'s major allies have already achieved, like a female head of state. And the fact that it is 2016, and this is literally the first time in over, I think it's almost 200 years of a nation being a state. This is now something that's happening when even countries that that people would consider less kind to women have had many female heads of states. So it's interesting that it's monumentalness that it's going to follow Obama being the first black president, but it's also interesting to me that it's taken this long, considering how far ahead even the least liberal of the U.S.'s allies have already met this achievement.
It is. It's about time, right? It's about time. It's 2016. The one thing that I know from my perspective, just being a little bit older, I remember Indira Gandhi. I remember Margaret Thatcher. I remember Kim Campbell as leaders when they were leaders of those countries, and I remember looking up to them and of course someday that'll happen, and soon in the US, and then it didn't, and then it didn't, and then it didn't. We had almost a couple of times that we saw. I think this is a shattering of a glass ceiling. I do. If Hillary Clinton wins, this would be a monumental moment. I'm just not sure if I feel it the way I wanted to feel it. I wanted to have an emotional moment. I wanted to be me and my daughter swinging her around the living room excited, but I'll be happy, but I won't be that emotional that I wanted to be to see this moment happen.
And it'll be interesting because Hillary is someone who's constantly been attacked for showing any qualities that are associated with women. Hillary has been called too emotional in the past in her career. And at the same time, then on a juxtaposition, has been called too robotic. So it seems like the scrutiny she has faced in her career in comparison to her male colleagues is astonishing. So there is, it is as monumental as it is, it's also like really depressing to see how much she's had to like scrutiny she's gotten for this type of thing.
Imagine a presidential candidate, and one of the ways people describe them all the time is a lack of warmth. How many presidents did you warm up to? You know, it's not necessarily key to the job. It sure is nice, but yes, it's an extra pressure on a woman to show the warmth.
It's really interesting to see this juxtaposed next to Donald Trump's passionate politics, his total, devotion to this sort of what some people might call like a dogmatic ideal of just moving forward with industrial politics and the whole idea of populism coming out. Seeing that also, what do you guys think about the groups that have come out to vote? We're seeing a record turnout in Hispanic voters. We're also seeing the Black community having quite the divide between Trump and Clinton. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
My hope tonight is that we see first-time voters. Young voters and first-time voters. I know the breakdowns, we're looking at record numbers of maybe record numbers of Latino voters, maybe record numbers of Black voters, and I think that's great. But for me, what I want to see as a future, I want to see people who maybe didn't vote before, but this is the time they said, I'm going to do it. I want to see that, and I want to see millennials vote.
Important. It's also one of those things like, considering these groups have so much to lose essentially if Trump gets in. This is a candidate who has come forth and said he wants to restrict the amount of Muslims that are allowed to enter the country, and also wanting to deport undocumented immigrants essentially as soon as he gets into office. So and especially when you consider when folks do come in undocumented, the lives they built for themselves and the fact they may have children here that were born here. So it's something that's very scary right now if you are a part of a group that has been targeted by Donald Trump. Less to mention the fact that Mike Pence, who is his running mate, that has a lot of implications for LGBTQ plus voters in the United States. So as someone he has come out on a lot of anti-LGBTQ plus stances. So it's really almost frightening to watch if you're someone who's
led the fight in the U.S. about transgendered bathrooms and making sure that doesn't happen. That is his wish. He certainly is anti-abortion. Very strong stances on what I guess they would define as social issues. I don't even know if we would categorize them that way in Canada. They're just life. The difference is sometimes when I look at this election, I just shake my head, and it is a foreign country. We're close, we're friends, we've always been friends, we have so much in common, but it's a foreign country.
I think that says it, like,
feels it in this election.
And that brings our panel to a close. For more coverage on the 2016 election, make sure you follow @Niagara College News on Twitter, and check out our website, niagara-news.com. This is Alex York signing off.